Marlon Brando's knees hit the chapel floor. The casket was 20 feet away, white roses everywhere. 200 people staring at him, and Marlon Brando, the man who never broke on screen, was on his hands and knees, unable to breathe. Dad, his son reached for him. Brando pushed him away. He actually crawled across the marble floor toward his daughter's casket like a wounded animal, trying to reach safety that didn't exist. The funeral director moved to stop him. Brando's friend Jack Nicholson grabbed the director's arm and shook his head. Let him go. Brando reached the casket and pulled himself up. His hands gripped the polished wood so hard his knuckles went white. And then he did something that made every single person in that chapel wish they were anywhere else in the world. He started talking to her, not whispering, not praying, talking, like she could hear him, like if he just explained it right, she'd wake up. Cheyenne, baby, it's Dad. I'm here now. I'm sorry I'm late. His voice cracked. I was on a plane. I got here as fast as I could. I'm here now, sweetheart. I'm here. 200 people watched Marlon Brando, the greatest actor who ever lived, give the performance of his life to an audience of one who couldn't hear him. This is the story of how a father's grief broke him so completely that he never found all the pieces. And what happened in the next 3 days made everyone who loved Marlon Brando realize he died the same day his daughter did. His body just didn't know it yet. To understand why Marlon Brando shattered like glass at his daughter's funeral, you need to understand what Cheyenne meant to him. She wasn't just his daughter, she was his redemption. Marlon Brando was a terrible father. He'd admit it to anyone who asked. He had 11 children by different women scattered across the world. He missed birthdays. He missed Christmases. He sent checks instead of showing up. He was great at playing fathers on screen and awful at being one in real life. But Cheyenne was different. Born in Tahiti in 1970 to Marlon and his third wife, Tarita, Cheyenne grew up on an island paradise far from Hollywood's poison. She had her mother's Polynesian beauty and her father's artistic soul. She painted. She wrote poetry. She had a laugh that sounded like music, and Marlon loved her with a desperation that terrified him. When Cheyenne was 5, Marlon visited Tahiti, and she made him a birthday card. Stick figures holding hands. Daddy and me forever, written in crayon. Marlon kept that card in his wallet for 30 years. Even at her funeral, it was there. Worn at the edges, faded, but there. She's the only one who loves me for me, Marlon told Francis Ford Coppola once. Not for what I can do for her, not for my money or my name, just me. But Marlon was right about one thing. Hollywood destroyed everything it touched. And even though he tried to keep Cheyenne away from it, the poison found her anyway. It started in 1989. When Cheyenne was 19, she just started modeling. Beautiful, exotic, getting offers from major agencies. Her whole life was ahead of her. Then she got in a car accident that shattered her face. Emergency surgery, reconstructive work. She survived, but the scars, physical and mental, never healed. The depression started slowly, then faster. Then it swallowed her whole. Marlon flew to Tahiti the moment he heard. He sat by her hospital bed for 6 days straight. He held her hand. He told her she was beautiful. He promised her everything would be okay. He was lying, and they both knew it. The next 5 years were a nightmare spiral. Cheyenne fell in love with a boy named Doug Drolet, got pregnant, moved to Los Angeles to live with Marlon. And then, in May 1990, Cheyenne's half-brother Christian shot Dag dead in Marlon's living room. Christian claimed Dag was abusing Cheyenne. Cheyenne's mental state was so fractured, no one knew what was true. Christian went to prison. Cheyenne had the baby, a son named Tukey, and then lost custody because she couldn't take care of him. She couldn't take care of herself. She tried to kill herself 3 times in those 5 years. Marlon saved her every time, flew to Tahiti, sat with her, talked her back from the edge. "You're my light, Cheyenne," he told her once. "If you go out, everything goes dark." On April 16th, 1995, Easter Sunday, Marlon was in Los Angeles preparing for a meeting about a new film. The phone rang at 3 a.m. It was Tarita, Cheyenne's mother. "Marlon, she's gone." 4 words that ended his world. Cheyenne had hanged herself in her bedroom while her mother was at church. She was 25 years old. Her son, Tukey, 5 years old, was asleep in the next room. Marlon dropped the phone. His assistant found him an hour later sitting in the dark, staring at nothing, holding that crayon drawing from when Cheyenne was 5. Daddy and me forever. The funeral was set for 3 days later in Tahiti. Everyone expected Marlon to be too broken to attend. He was 71 years old, his health was failing, and the grief had hit him him like a freight train. His friends were planning to attend on his behalf, give his condolences, let him mourn in private. But Marlon had other plans. "I'm going," he told his assistant. "Marlon, I don't think that's a good idea. You're not—" "I wasn't there when she needed me," Marlon interrupted, his voice hollow. "I'm going to be there now." The flight to Tahiti took 8 hours. Marlon didn't sleep, didn't eat, just stared out the window at the Pacific Ocean passing below, thinking about all the times he'd promised to visit and didn't. All the phone calls he'd let go to voicemail because he was busy. All the moments he'd chosen his career over his daughter. When the plane landed, reporters were waiting, cameras flashing, microphones in his face. "Mr. Brando, how are you feeling?" Marlon looked at the reporter with eyes that had gone dead. "How am I feeling? My daughter is in a box. How do you think I'm feeling?" He walked past them without another word. The funeral was held at a small chapel in Papeete. White walls, open windows letting in the ocean breeze. Cheyenne had wanted to be buried in her mother's family cemetery, next to her ancestors. Marlon arrived 30 minutes before the service. He asked for time alone with her. The funeral director led him to the viewing room. Cheyenne was in a simple white dress, flowers in her hair. She looked peaceful, beautiful, young. Marlon stood there for 10 minutes just looking at her, not moving, not speaking, just looking. Then he reached out and touched her hand. It was cold. That's when something inside Marlon Brando broke permanently. "Baby girl," he whispered. "What did you do? What did you do?" The funeral service started at 2 p.m. 200 people packed into that small chapel. Family, friends, people from the island who'd known Cheyenne her whole life. And Marlon, sitting in the front row next to Tarita, both of them destroyed, but trying to hold it together for Tuki, who sat between them, asking why Mommy was sleeping. The service was in French and Tahitian. Hymns were sung. Prayers were said. People spoke about Cheyenne's kindness, her creativity, her struggles. Marlon sat silent through all of it, stone-faced, not crying, barely breathing. Then the pastor asked if anyone else wanted to speak. Silence. No one wanted to go after the formal eulogies. What else was there to say? Marlon stood up. Everyone tensed. Marlon Brando never spoke at public events. He hated being vulnerable. He'd spent 50 years building walls around his emotions and letting people see only what he wanted them to see. He walked to the pulpit, looked out at the 200 faces staring at him, opened his mouth to speak. Nothing came out. He tried again. Still nothing. 30 seconds of silence that felt like 30 years. Then Marlon did something no one expected. He turned away from the crowd and walked directly to Cheyenne's casket. He stood there, looking down at her, and started talking, not to the crowd, to her. "I know you can't hear me," he began, his voice barely above a whisper, but somehow filling the entire chapel. "Or maybe you can. I don't know how this works. I never believed in much beyond what I could see and touch. But right now, I'm hoping I was wrong, because I need you to hear this." He paused. His hands were shaking. "I failed you, Cheyenne. I know that. You knew that. Everyone in this room knows that. I wasn't the father you deserved. I was selfish and absent, and I prioritized my career over you for your entire life. And I can't take that back. I can't undo it. I can't fix it." His voice cracked. "You called me 3 weeks ago. Did you know that? 3 weeks ago. You called and said you wanted to talk. You said you were having a hard time and you needed your dad. And I said I was busy. I said I'd call you back in a few days." Tears were streaming down Marlon's face now. "I never called back, baby. I got busy with meetings and scripts and all the bullshit that doesn't matter, and I never called you back. And now you're gone, and I can't call you back. I can't tell you I'm sorry. I can't hold you and tell you everything's going to be okay." The 200 people in that chapel were openly sobbing now. Tarita had her face in her hands. Even the funeral director was crying. Marlon leaned down and kissed his daughter's forehead. "I love you, Cheyenne. I should have said it more. I should have shown it more. But I love you, and I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry." He straightened up, looked at the crowd with eyes that were absolutely shattered. "If any of you have children, and you're putting off that phone call, or that visit, or that conversation because you're busy, don't. Whatever you're doing isn't more important than them. I promise you it's not. I learned that lesson too late." Then Marlon Brando, the man who'd commanded stages and screens for 50 years, walked back to his seat and put his face in his hands and wept like a child. After the service, the burial was private, just family. Marlon insisted on being one of the pallbearers. His friends tried to talk him out of it. He was too old, too fragile, too broken, but he refused. "I didn't carry her enough when she was alive," he said. said. I'm going to carry her now. 6 men carried Cheyenne's casket from the chapel to the cemetery plot. Marlon was on the front right. His friends watched him struggle with the weight, saw his legs shaking, saw him refuse to let go. When they lowered the casket into the ground, Marlon was the last one to let go of the strap. His hands stayed on the casket until it touched the bottom of the grave. Then he grabbed a handful of Tahitian dirt and dropped it in. Sleep well, baby girl, he whispered. I'll see you soon. Everyone thought he meant eventually, in the afterlife, decades from now. They didn't realize he meant it literally. After Cheyenne's funeral, Marlon Brando became a ghost. He stopped working, stopped seeing friends, stopped leaving his house except when absolutely necessary. He'd lost children before. His son Christian would die in 2008, but losing Cheyenne broke something in him that couldn't be fixed. Jack Nicholson visited him 2 weeks after the funeral. He found Marlon in his bedroom, curtains drawn, surrounded by photos of Cheyenne at different ages. Marlon, you need to eat something, Jack said. You need to get out of this room. Why? Marlon asked, his voice flat. What's the point? The point is, you're still alive. No, I'm not, Marlon interrupted. I died in Tahiti. This is just my body forgetting to stop. Jack tried to argue, tried to pull him out of it. Marlon just turned back to the photos and stopped responding. When Jack left, he told Marlon's assistant, I don't think he's going to make it. He was right. Not in the way he thought, but he was right. Marlon didn't die from grief. Not technically, but he stopped living. He existed. He took up space. But the light in his eyes was gone. The man who'd brought Stanley Kowalski and Vito Corleone to life was dead. What was left was just a body going through the motions. 9 years later, on July 1st, 2004, Marlon Brando died of respiratory failure in Los Angeles. He was 80 years old, but everyone who knew him understood the truth. Marlon Brando died on April 16th, 1995, the same day his daughter did. It just took his body 9 years to catch up. Years later, when filmmakers were going through Marlon's belongings, they found something that made everyone who saw it break down in tears. It was a letter, handwritten, addressed to Cheyenne, never sent. It was dated April 18th, 1995, 2 days after she died, the day before her funeral. It said, My dearest Cheyenne, I know you're gone. I know you can't read this, but I'm writing it anyway because I need to say things I should have said when you were alive. I love you. I was a terrible father, but I loved you more than anything in this world. You were my light, my redemption, my proof that maybe I wasn't completely broken. I'm sorry I wasn't there enough. I'm sorry I chose my career over you. I'm sorry I didn't answer your call. I'm sorry for every time you needed me and I wasn't there. I don't know if there's anything after this, heaven, reincarnation, whatever, but if there is, I'll find you and I'll do better. I'll be the father you deserved. Wait for me, baby girl. I'll be there soon. I love you forever, Dad. The crayon drawing from when Cheyenne was 5 was folded inside the letter. Daddy and me forever. He'd kept his promise. In death, they were together again. And maybe finally, Marlon Brando found peace.